a local author, is tackling a topic that many of us will face in our lifetimes: traffic crashes.
Yeah, so we obviously report on them all the time, but we don't always talk about the trauma of a crash that can stay with somebody long after physical injuries heal. That is exactly what author Janelle Marie Lawrence is tackling in her new book, Healing Behind the Wheel. She joins us live here this morning. Appreciate your time.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad you're here.
here.
So you're also the executive director of Oregon Impact. That's an organization working to end impaired and distracted driving. So what have you seen between your book and within your title there, within your work, to see people recover from a crash? How are people affected by this?
Well, they're affected in many different ways, and that's how actually the book came about. So we had volunteers that would help us and talk about what their experience had been being in a traumatic crash or suffering a traumatic brain injury. But we also had the opportunities to talk to first responders. And they don't get over things they see necessarily as easy as we might think they would.
Oh, gosh,
So we really had a lot of areas to focus on. So the goal was, how can we find as many resources for people that maybe you can tune in to the one that would work for you.
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard about your book, I had that kind of like, oh yeah, why we don't really talk about this, we don't often think about it, but we are far more likely to experience trauma from a traffic crash than many other, you know, kind of traumatic events that we talk about here in the news sometimes. How common is that post-traumatic stress from either being in or responding to a crash that can stay with people?
It's actually more common than you would think. PTSD, the highest rate, is from crashes.
Wow.
I would have thought a military issue or something like that, but it really is because we all have the opportunity to be in that crash situation or see something.
Yeah.
So it really is a lot more prominent than we would think it would be.
You know, you say that your body remembers what your mind forgets. I want you to explain that and some of those long-term impacts that can stay with you.
So a lot of folks, and I've actually been in cars with them, which is how, you know, I realized what was happening, getting back in that metal box.
Yeah.
Even though their brain said, I should be fine, it's not going to happen again, that sort of thing, their body would remember. So maybe they start shaking or, you know, everything becomes foggy. They can't see straight. So their body really feels like it was maybe the last time they were in that car and what happened to them.
Wow.
And that could have an impact on your driving as you try and get back behind the wheel.
Absolutely. So it's not just being a passenger and going, well, just push through it, you'll be fine, or getting behind the wheel again, because it might have a different outcome if you're not ready.
Even just quality of life, you know, you don't want to live that way.
Right.
You know, it is very impactful. With that said, what is your advice to somebody who is maybe going through this situation right now?
Well, I'm going to offer the book as a resource.
Sure.
How about that?
Yep.
And we do provide them free of charge. This is not a money maker for us in any way. So if you go to our website, OregonImpact.org, you can ask for a book and I'll send you one and you'll have all the resources. But you really need to plug in what's going to work for you and have a support system that will acknowledge where you're at. So if you're not ready to get back in the car, you need to have people support you that go, you're right, you're not. So how can we get you there? Not push. That's what I found mostly.
Just get in.
People pushing people to just, you know, get over it. And so this book will help them do that.
Okay.
Interesting.
Something too to keep in mind if you know someone, you know, in your circle that has had a crash recently or that might be having a hard time recovering from something like this, you could reach out and be that resource and be that support for somebody. What other resources does Oregon Impact offer drivers to make sure that we're being smarter on the road?
So we have lots of resources. So we've been around for about 25 years now. We do the DUI victims impact panels is where we started. So we have a lot of resources on site for distracted driving. We have a special class for teens because they're the majority of the crashes for distracted driving. There's classes you can take on traffic safety. Everything's at no charge. We have tons of tools we can bring out to an event and actually have people experience what it's like to drive impaired or what it's like to be drowsy driving. We have goggles we can use, and they can actually see what that does and what it's like.
Fascinating. I think it's great. I mean, Emily and I, we were talking before you actually came in this morning, and how this is an issue that I don't think you really realize is an issue until you maybe experience it for yourself.
Right.
So I love that we're having the chance to talk about it. Janelle, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for
Great
having
stuff.
me.
And again, you can find her new book. It's called Healing Behind the Wheel, wherever books are sold. You can always learn more about organ impact as well by checking out this story on coin.com.
All right, it's 8:42.